This is SEO Foundations, Keyword Research, and Competitive Intelligence. At the end of this lesson, you should be able to describe the importance of identifying user intent when performing keyword research, list some basic methods for performing keyword research, explain the difference between long-tail queries and short-tail queries. Finally, perform basic competitive analysis on search queries. Every search that you perform using a search engine is based on keywords. People enter keywords to find useful information as they have learned that search provides answers fast. While selecting keywords, there are two important factors to consider: keyword traffic and competition. Keyword traffic is the amount of search queries recorded against a keyword. Competition is the number of websites targeting that same keyword. While selecting a keyword, you might ideally want to pick those with high traffic, but it's not always the right approach. You also need to consider the rate of competition. A keyword with high traffic and high competition may take longer to get results. Ideally, find keywords with high traffic but low competition for faster results. Also, there is no harm in picking keywords with low traffic and low competition. In fact, many businesses have been built on finding these opportunities. User intent is paramount with keyword research. It is what drives all of research queries on the internet. You have people who search for something like WHO, and they could mean many things by this. It could mean the World Health Organization. They might also mean the band. They could also be looking for a specific part of speech. It depends on the context of what they're searching for. It depends on how they capitalize it. It's important here to understand the intent, not necessarily the exact word that they typed into the search engine. The intent makes all the difference. So let's look at this with a more realistic example. And this is something I've taken from clients because this happens all the time. In some parts of the United States, people use the word lawyer when they're talking about someone who practices law. In other parts of the United States, they use the word attorney. The difference in these is very minimal, except for when you're focusing on user intent, specifically with search engine optimization. What's going to happen is if you target the wrong version of this word in the wrong part of the country, you won't get search traffic, and you won't be able to get many visitors. So this is what I spend a lot of my time focusing on, and that's figuring out what do human beings in this context put into the search engines when they're trying to find a product or a service or an answer. More specifically, my clients or my products. This is one of the most important versions of this. Also, is when people search for buy versus free. You'll see this a lot in paid search. They'll work on user intent also, but you need to start optimizing for phrases that are going to lead to your ultimate goal, which usually means conversions. In many cases, that's sales. So what does that look like? Well, you want to rank for phrases like buy cars, buy coats, or buy umbrellas. You don't actually care in most cases when something is ranking for free umbrellas, or free cars, or free advice. These aren't things that are going to be helpful for you and actually build your business. Intent is what you need to spend your time learning and focusing on. Now that we've talked about the importance of keyword research, let's talk about a topic that is extremely important and very closely related. It's called not provided. Now, historically, search engines would give us all kinds of data. One of these important pieces of data they would share with us was the search volume and the search keywords that people used when they found your website. So it looked like two things. First of all, we have a phrase like attorney or lawyer. We could see how many people were using it globally or how many people were using it within a specific region. And this was very important for optimizing our keywords and optimizing our pages before we'd even sent them out and before we could even start testing against them. We also had the data that people used when they came to our website. So if they searched for attorney or if they searched for a lawyer and they made it to our website, we'd be able to see that in our analytics. Unfortunately, this has changed. It first started with Google and then moved on to the rest of the search engines. So today, when we look at our analytics, we see this phrase, not provided, because that data is no longer available, which is unfortunate because we're no longer able to make the data-driven decisions that we once were based off of this keyword data. Now that we've addressed the not provided issue, let's get back to the fun part, which is the research itself. There's a lot of different ways to do this, but I generally go into 4 categories. First off, industry keywords. Look at what phrases human beings, actual people, talk to the people in your industry, your customers, people within the industry, and listen to them when they describe what they need in terms of products or services. This could be just as easy as walking around your office, talking to people, or especially talking to the sales team. They know what people want, and they know the words that people use. So you could actually go out and talk to people. If you have access to additional data online, sometimes you can get it from other sources. These are great places to look at what phrases, what words people use within your industry and describe what it is that you're trying to sell. Now, the next area is paid search. You can find a lot of keyword information with paid search. You can talk to your AdWords team or talk to anyone who's doing paid search for your company. They're going to have a lot of access to search queries and lots of phrases. They can see the search phrases that people are using, see their ads, and go to the site. So that's intelligence that we can't get from the organic side. So hopefully they'll be able to work with you and provide a list of things that you might want to optimize for. The next one is a little less common, but certainly very valuable if you have it, and that's internal search. Most websites, at least in theory, should have internal search set up already. The idea here is you're looking at what your actual visitor is typing into your own search box on your own website, and then you see what keyword phrases that they're looking for, and that can help you understand what people need. This is ideal because it's as customized and as personalized to your website as it can be. So if you can use the keyword data, which actually shows up in your analytics after you set it up, then you can use that to influence your SEO research. The last one is competitor keywords. In an ideal world, you could just ask your competitors, what are you ranking for? But in the real world, nobody's going to tell you. So you have to go a roundabout way of doing this. Now, you could look at other paid search tools, and they'll show you what your competitors are bidding on. And from those, you can figure out their strategy. I'm going to walk through one of my favorite keyword research tools, WordTracker, in order to give you an idea of how these tools work. Now, as you can see, there's a basic dashboard for your research. There is the Google Keyword Database and the WordTracker database. I'm going to use the Google Keyword Database. Now, here I can put the keyword that I want to research, and then the locations that I want to focus on. Now, this can be worldwide, it can be a specific country, a city, or a region. I'm going to search the Google database within the United States. I want to see how people search for the term digital camera. Typically, I start with the short tail term, as I want to see all the different variations and options that people search with. Now, the words will start populating, and they typically load from the words most searched to the words least searched. Now, of course, just the word camera has been searched on the most at over 500,000 times per month. That's in this volume column, what will tell you how many times about the word has been searched on within that time frame. Now, these numbers are not exact. They're being pulled from a number of different sources, and so it doesn't mean that there are exactly 500,000 searches per month on Google. It's just a good estimate. Now, the next column is the competition column. You'll see this in a lot of keyword research tools. The higher the number of competition. That means the number of websites that are all competing to rank for this term based on using that term in their optimization. Finally, the right column gives me a sense for how much that word, on average, is costing advertisers in paid search. I can also get a sense for the demand. Month by month, how many times do people search for this word throughout the year? It's not popular all year long. As you can see here, the word camera spikes at around March and then again in November and December within the United States. All these things are good to know. Now I want to get a sense for how people search and what is most important to them. So here's where I start building groups. Right away, what I start seeing are brands. Canon, Nikon, Olympus, Fuji. So I'll start developing a group of brand names. And then features. What are people looking for in their cameras? I see two right here that are very interesting, and that is underwater camera and waterproof camera. Two very important features. I'll start a list for that as well. Then types. What are some other things people are searching for? I see cheap, 35 millimeter, kids, used, compact, all different words that people are using to describe the type of camera they want. These are the words you want to make a list for and group together, especially as you see them appear again and again. I also find places like best place to buy or buy online or where to buy. Keep those in mind, put those in another list. And finally, information, such as comparison, reviews, best cameras, top rated. That's what I'm looking for. Now, when I start organizing these groups and I want to create a project, let's go back to features like my underwater camera and waterproof camera. I'll check those. That way I can add them to my project. I can hit save and they're added to my water camera list. Now I can also export anything that I have selected and I can copy that to the clipboard and then add that to a spreadsheet. Through the spreadsheet, it will export all of the volume data, the competitive data, and I can go through and work through it different ways and really dig into the words. This has been a quick overview of WordTracker keyword research tool. Now let's dig in a little further on how to use a keyword research tool. You see, it's much deeper than simply making a list of keywords. Too many people attempt to do SEO and all they have is a list with a few keywords. And that's not going to get you far. Keyword research doesn't just tell you the words people use. You can find intent, what they really want, what's important to them, preferences, opinions, and ideas. You also see what they need and how they express it. Now, part of SEO is writing articles, blog posts, social posts. But how will you know what to write about if you don't know what people really need? So this is where you dig in. The amount of time you spend in keyword research will be greatly rewarded. The better you understand the searchers, the better you'll deliver to them what they want. Now, I break this down in 4 ways. First, I look for the brand name. Then I look to see what words people have associated with it. I might find that there are other brands with similar names. I may also find issues if people are associating negative words or ideas to the brand. That shows that there might be some work to be done to rebuild trust. Also, I want to connect popular brand searches to the destination pages. Which page ranks for those brand terms, and also, are they my pages? I want to know if someone else is ranking for any of my branded terms, or if better pages can be ranking on my own site for my own brand. Second, look for the related concepts of the keyword. Then start grouping and categorizing larger groups to smaller groups. Find as many different associations with the keyword and then categorize them. You can group them by sales cycle. If you can identify words that are used early and words used as people move closer to their decision, the groups would each show a different intent of the searcher. Third, look for specific indicators of time, location, or features. These are words or related words that may indicate a city, a region, or a location. Also, any time frames, seasonality, or trends to the words throughout the year. And then any associated dates or events that people use. And features that are specific to your product, your business, your industry, as those obviously are important if they make it into the keyword. Now finally, I want to identify the specific questions or needs that people have. If they're actually asking a question, that's great. More words gives me more context. And I want to know what they want, how they express that need in words, and categorize those needs. These steps will not only help you in crafting good SEO, but also in developing content, which will enable you to communicate effectively to the site visitor and understand the context of the market. When you're looking at your organic search queries, it's easiest to divide all of your search queries up into 2 broad categories. These categories are what we call short tail and long tail. So what does that mean? The first one is short tail. Short tail is going to be the short, frequently searched for broad keywords. Now, more often than not, this is branded keywords What's the name of your company or key products? Again, these are very, very short keywords, 1 or 2 words. People search for them all the time, and especially with your brand, they will come up frequently. But also, they're very, very broad. They typically are 1 or 2 words that indicate an entire industry. Not using any other descriptive words, it's just the simplest way of explaining a product or a service within a large industry. Now, the long tail is exactly the opposite. This is what's important. The long tail is going to make up the vast majority of your traffic. The reason being that while people are going to mostly search for very broad terms, utilizing multiple words. You see, most people are going to be very descriptive when they are using words to search for something specific. Typically, they're closer to buying or making a decision, so they tend to add more attributes to their search terms. Color attributes, product numbers, locations, things like that. Long tail and short tail is kind of hard to define from a quantitative perspective. But generally speaking, when you have more than 3 words, it's going to be long tail. If you have 1 or 2 words, that's typically a short tail. Let's cover the short tail a little bit further. Now, there are pros and cons to trying to rank for short tail words. Now, the biggest good of a short tail word is that it's typically a very general word. If it's your branded term, you may already rank for it. But short tail keywords are so general, and they apply to such a large industry, and maybe even across different industries, they became very difficult to rank for. So it takes a very large budget to go after some of these very short tail terms. Now here's an example. Many people in the automotive industry would love to rank number 1 for the word cars. However, the word is so broad that it doesn't apply to anyone specific. Someone might only sell new cars, or old cars, or small cars, large, expensive, cheap, and we haven't even gotten into the brands. Now, you see, we need these additional words to help provide guidance. Otherwise, we don't know what is meant by the single word cars. As I said, most in the automotive industry would love to have that ranking, but that's not what people need. People might search for cars and realize how big that is, and then start using additional words to drill down. Now, if I'm selling cars, obviously I'd like that, but someone searching at that level isn't going to be relevant, especially if I'm in a specific location. I only offer a certain type of car. I have additional services or brands. You see, first of all, start optimizing for your business and in your location, and you'll naturally grow in relevance. Now, if it's in your strategy to go after short tail terms, be prepared to work hard and be prepared to spend a lot of money. It's not going to be cheap to accomplish, and it will take a long while to happen, especially if you are just starting out with a new website. Now that we've talked about the short tail, let me explain why the long tail is so amazing. You see, the long tail keyword phrases are more descriptive and more targeted, which is great because it means that if someone comes in on one of those phrases, they're much more likely to convert. These are really wonderful phrases, especially when you're just starting out. It's much easier to be the only person who's trying to rank for one specific phrase if it's extremely long, descriptive, and targeted. It's easier than trying to rank for one term that the whole world is competing for. So when you're just starting out with search engine optimization, you want to have a realistic expectation. You should be focusing initially on the long tail with longer term goals of the short tail. But start there. Your clients and you may like this because it means a smaller budget. Long tail results happen very quickly as there's much less competition, and it's much easier to establish initial rankings for these phrases. Now, analyzing competition is the easiest and early activity that an SEO can undertake. It comprises checking the keywords that the competition ranks for and studying their content. Is this the content that you eventually want to rank for? This information is useful in building your content and keyword phrases. There are 4 areas that you can look at while performing competitive analysis. The first is identifying competition. That may include websites such as Wikipedia or directory sites. An SEO must know who the competition is. You will know the challenges and the resources required to rank for competitive terms. The next is taking a realistic perspective. Based on the competition, how difficult will it be to rank for a given term? If your competition is a gigantic international corporation that has the keyword you want in its domain name, it will take years to rank well in the keyword search. Now, this is indicative that you might not want to waste time trying to rank for this keyword, but look to your efforts elsewhere. The next one is studying the content that's powering the success of competitors. Observe the content format of blog posts, videos, and images so that your content may be similar for ranking purposes. However, it's vitally important to remember this. Just because a competitor has words in their strategy and they are ranking well for those words, it does not necessarily mean that those words are bringing them business. When you evaluate competitors, you're only evaluating half of the picture. The other half is their analytics and their sales data. You can only see what they advertise, not what makes them money or brings them business. So be careful of the thinking that because a competitor uses certain words, that they're also successful in that use. There's not a direct correlation. Finally, analyze user experience. Check why people are linking to some content, what their incentives are, why Google has ranked certain content for a certain keyword, and so on. Check why people are linking to some content, what their incentives are, why Google has ranked certain content for a certain keyword, and so on. Competitive analysis can get highly technical. So instead of going extremely deep into that, I want to show you the general ideas and the metrics that I look for when I'm doing this. The first one is the domain name of my competitors. I want to look at this from a few different angles. In terms of what I'm looking for, I want to see how established that brand is both online and offline. Does the domain name contain keywords that I'm trying to rank for? And if I'm trying to rank for the term, let's say Wikipedia, and you notice there's another website that happens to be called Wikipedia, you're not going to be able to compete with that. So I'm just giving that as an example. You want to look at how competitive that is, and how much is the domain name going to have an effect. Now the next one is domain authority, and this is slightly different because it's an actual metric. It's something that you can look up online. What this will tell you is what the link profile of that domain looks like. Does it have a lot of links? Are those links coming from trusted sources? Are those links coming from trusted sources that are going to be hard to compete with? All these things are important for evaluating how strong of a competitor this is already. The next one is the number of indexed pages of the competitors. This will tell you how much the search engines like this domain. If the search engines like this domain and that website has a lot of pages, it's going to be extremely difficult. So you'll be able to see this score with most SEO management software. The last thing to look at is paid search terms. Look at what ads are around the keyword when I search in the search engine. It's going to tell you what companies care about that keyword and are targeting it in their paid search campaigns. If they're spending money on it, it's an important metric to look at. Now we can look at this and say, okay, I've searched for the generic term and I see 5 companies that have paid money to buy these ads. I'm going to add that keyword to my competitive list. And I'm going to go through the first 4 and see how much of a threat they are. So I want to make it clear that there are lots and lots of different metrics that you can look at, but these are the 4 places to start. One of the biggest benefits of SEO is the foundational elements equally apply to other potential markets. While the keywords that you target will change somewhat for business-to-business and business-to-consumer marketing, the high-level strategy that you use with SEO will remain exactly the same. Your best execution of SEO will require following best practices of keyword targeting and on-page optimization so that your URLs and products will show up in the search engines when potential buyers look for your product. Now, regardless of your niche, the SEO best practices remain the same. Imagine you have a business-to-business oriented business. You're developing leads online and you have a sales force. Now, your sales force might be calling potential customers, meeting with prospective buyers and other businesses. Now, even though your goals in your sales cycle would be very different than a small business-to-consumer business, the SEO is the same. You're following best practices, keyword targeting, on-page optimization, and you'll be targeting something that is specific to your business. Either way, you accomplish results by producing high-quality, well-optimized information that answers people's questions. When you develop great content that informs, educates, and entertains, you'll naturally develop links when people like your content and share it with others. Key takeaways from this section: user intent is the driver of word choice and search demand, and it is the foundation of a strong SEO strategy. Some basic methods for performing keyword research include analyzing industry keywords, paid search campaigns, internal site search, and competitor keywords. Short-tail keywords are typically short, have high search volume, but broad intent. Long-tail keywords are typically long, have lower search volume, and have specific intent.